isn't Yorka. We're in a storm. We need help.
Where's the sea?
Welcome back to K-Movies Worldwide. Today, we will do a movie recap of the 2024 film Survive. Before we start, kindly help my small channel grow by simply clicking like and subscribe. Believe me, your kind gesture is a big impact for this channel. Marine biologist Tom and his family, his wife, Julia, and their 2 children, Cassie and Ben, embarked on a sailing holiday across the tranquil waters of the Caribbean. While Tom and Ben focused on fishing and Cassie was lost in her electronic device, Julia slipped into the sea for a casual swim. But what began as a peaceful moment quickly turned unsettling. Despite the calm surface, a creeping sense of danger wrapped around her like an invisible current. On board, the yacht's navigation gear flickered and faltered, but Tom, distracted, paid it no mind. Julia, overwhelmed by a growing sense of dread, suddenly began to struggle in the water. Her cries for help were muffled by the distance and wind. By the time Tom noticed, she was already drifting far from the boat. He sprang into action, steering the yacht toward her and diving in. With help from the kids, he pulled her back aboard. After reviving her, tensions rose briefly. Tom reminded everyone to announce when they planned to swim, but the moment was soon overshadowed by celebration. It was Ben's 13th birthday. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Tom lit the candles on a cake, while Cassie captured the moment in a family photo. Just then, Cassie received a call from her boyfriend, who casually asked about the swim. Before she could answer, a violent storm crackled in the background. He reassured her he was safe before the line went dead. Suddenly, the yacht lurched. Everyone rushed out to see a grim sight: enormous whale corpses bobbing around them. Tom, perplexed, said it could be disorientation from the storm, but the whales were ramming the vessel. He dove into the water to investigate and came back injured, cut by the yacht's propeller. Julia tended to him while Tom reported that the boat's prop shafts were damaged, possibly from a whale strike. Communication systems failed. No signal, no radio. With only 4 days' worth of water, Tom tried to stay optimistic, reasoning that shipping routes meant someone would find them. But hope began to crumble. When the sky rained burning, lights falling satellites. One crashed dangerously close, and Tom restarted the engine just in time to steer them from a direct hit. The yacht took more damage, and a deafening hum made them bleed from the nose and become nauseous. Tom's flair for help was lost in the chaos. The family clung to survival as monstrous waves pummeled them through the night. When morning came, they awoke to silence and, something far more shocking, the sea was gone. The yacht now rested on a rocky plateau, surrounded by desert. Tom soon discovered their compass no longer worked. The planet's magnetic poles had shifted. The ocean had drained, and much of humanity may have been wiped out. Trying to stay strong, Julia inventoried what little they had left. Ben released a cluster of bright balloons into the sky, hoping they might draw survivors. Later, the yacht's radio crackled to life. A man named Nato, captain of a deep-sea submersible, answered. He and his crew had survived. Submerged when the disaster struck, Nato warned that the ocean would return within a week. Violently, they needed to reach high ground. Tom then talked to Nato about the direction that will take. Afterwards, Tom told his wife to get ready for the trip. After the confirmation from Nato, Julia packed swiftly the most important things that they would need. However, after Tom asked Nato to save their children, Nato said his vessel could only carry 1 passenger. But Tom did not stop asking Nato to save his kids. That is why, after some pleading, Nato agreed to take both kids. Tom plotted the journey to the rendezvous point, but the next morning, as he stepped outside, a ragged man and his dog approached. Tom offered the man water, but instead of thanking him, he was suddenly attacked and stabbed through the chest. Julia came running towards his husband. Helpless and in shock, she just stood while the man kept on stabbing Tom. The man chased her as she fled to the yacht, wounding her. As she shouted for help, Cassie heard it and ran towards her mother. Then Cassie and Ben helped closing the cabin. Scared for her kids, Julia told Cassie and Ben to quickly move and hide inside the storage locker. She also found a way to arm Cassie by giving her a flare gun and instructed to use it when it's necessary. Outside, the man kept banging on the cabin's door, trying to get inside, while Julia hastily went downstairs to their room to attend to her wound. The stranger eventually broke in, grabbed a can of food, and eats it while seeking for Julia inside the cabin. Julia, armed with a knife, patiently waits for the man. As the stranger's continually searchers for her, she decided to lure him down the cabin's base. She then lured him away. As she dove under the yacht, Julia was able to go out only to be found by the stranger's dog, who keeps on barking on her. Left with no choice, Julia eliminated the attack dog. As the man checks the noise outside, Julia sneakily climbed back into the yacht. The moment she entered, she was immediately attacked by the man. As she fell to the ground, the man grabbed her head, and he then strangles her. As the man is trying to kill her mother, Cassie instantly acted to save her. She opened the storage and fired the flare gun towards the man. The man was hit and the yacht was set on fire. After the man was neutralized, the fire inside the cabin is spreading, so Julia immediately went towards her kids and told them to get out of the yacht hastily. After securing her kids, she then grabbed the map and some supplies before leaving the cabin. Outside, their kids found their father lying on the ground lifeless. As Julia approaches them, she could not stop herself to break down in tears. A few moments later, their yacht on fire eventually exploded. However, it was also seen before the explosion that the man who killed their father escaped. In the vast sun-scorched desert, they stumbled upon a narrow canyon where a thin stream trickled through the sand, an unexpected sign of life. Desperate for relief, they knelt by the water, only to recoil after the first sip. The water was bitter and salty, taunting them with false hope. Ben sat back on his heels, his shoulders heavy with blame. Julia touched his arm gently and calmly said to Ben that his hope wasn't a mistake, assuring him that he is not to blame for the death of his father. As silence settled between them, a flicker of motion caught her eye. High on the ridge above, partially obscured by heat, shimmer, and dust, the silhouette of the stranger reappeared, still watching, still tracking them, as relentless as the sun. The family pressed on, stumbling into a toxic field of leaking waste barrels. Ben tried to butcher a shark carcass for food, but Julia saw the pursuer closing in and urged them to flee. They marched through the ocean's graveyard, where waves had long since vanished, leaving behind dunes of plastic and rot. Bottles, nets, and broken toys jutted from the sand like bones, a monument to everything discarded. The air stank of salt and decay, and with each step, the ground crackled beneath their boots, echoes of a world that had poisoned its own sea. Ben became dehydrated. Julia gave him the last water. Cassie had a breakdown, but Julia held the family together. They eventually found the wreckage of a long-sunken airplane. Inside, they rested. Julia told the children how she met their father at a hospital after a diving accident. He was bruised and half-laughing, joking with nurses despite the pain. She'd been visiting a friend, but something about him drew her in. The ocean nearly took him, she said, but that's how I found him. That night, under the cover of darkness, Cassie lured the intruder outside, her movements deliberate and calculated. As he followed, unaware of the trap, Julia was ready. She ambushed him from the shadows, her knife plunging deep into his side with a swift, brutal motion. His breath ragged, possibly already dead. But by morning, when the family ventured out to check, they found the body ripped apart, and the flesh torn as if by claws. The wounds too savage for a simple human attacker. They weren't alone out there, and whatever else was hunting them had no intention of leaving them in peace. Later, as the sun beat down with merciless intensity, Ben dropped to his knees beside a shallow puddle shimmering in the heat. Driven by thirst and delirium, he cupped the brackish water and brought it to his lips. Julia shouted and yanked him back just in time. With what little strength they had left, they dragged a few sun-bleached chairs from the wreckage nearby and propped them together, fashioning a crude shelter that barely blocked the light. Stumbling over twisted debris and sun-warped plastics, they crested a dune, and there it was. A massive rusted cargo ship stranded in the sand like a beached whale. Shipping containers lay strewn around it like fallen dominoes, some cracked open, others eerily silent. And just ahead, clustered beneath the ship's shadow, were people. Survivors, worn, wary, and staring back at them with the same exhausted, haunted eyes. But giant crabs descended. The survivors locked themselves in a container, ignoring Julia's pleas. From above, the family watched as the crabs broke through and slaughtered those inside. Julia was injured and lost consciousness. When Julia woke, the sun was lower in the sky, casting long shadows over the skeletal remains of the ship. Her heart lurched until she saw her children, nearby safe, alive, and quietly scavenging through the wreckage. Emma held up a dented can of food like a treasure, and Ben grinned as he uncovered a dusty crate filled with water bottles and a half-buried radio. The static crackled to life after some coaxing, and by some miracle, they managed to reach Nato again. His voice came through, distorted but clear enough. He said that the sea was nearly back, and warns them that it is rising faster than expected. And with it came the deep-sea creatures that had already begun to push inland. Therefore, they had to move now. A moment later, a flare streaked across the sky, red and bright, burning through the twilight. Without speaking, they gathered what they could carry and turned toward the flare. They were nearly there, so close they could see the glint of the submarine's tower rising above the horizon. A deep, metallic groan echoed through the canyon walls as the brittle ground crumbled. A sudden rock slide cascaded down from above, a wall of dust and debris separating Julia from the children in a heartbeat. Julia then said to Cassie to continue to the sub. Cassie refused at first, but Julia pleaded with her to save Ben. So the two run towards it with all their strength. As the kids reached the sub, they saw Nato, who was mortally wounded. Nato told them to go inside as there is no time left and the water is coming in a fast speed. However, Cassie refused and ran back for her mother. Meanwhile, back in the canyon, Julia is trying to survive shooting the giant crabs crawling fast towards her. Thankfully, Cassie found Julia, so she immediately grabbed her hand and pulled her up. Together, they ran hastily towards the submarine. As they got up, Ben kept shooting on the giant crabs, while Nato sacrificed himself and told them to go inside urgently as the huge tide of water is fastly approaching. As the enormous wave of water hit the submarine, the three of them were able to secure themselves inside it. Julia blacked out. When she awoke, the surge has stopped and they had reached land. When they got outside, they were shocked to see that what was left of it was a drowned city. Kindly help my small channel grow by simply clicking like and subscribe. Believe me, your kind gesture is a big impact for this channel.